Hello, if you don't already know me, my name is DeHorn. I am a senior at Southland East High School. And for about the next month, I am tasked on figuring out the question to why is golf so hard. I've been playing golf my entire life. As a kid, I really only just played golf for fun with friends and with family. Freshman year was about when I took it seriously. There's also when I joined the Southland East High School team. During my 4 years, well, I guess 3 years, it's going to be 4 years in the spring, on the team, I have had my fair share of great moments, bad moments, like great golf, terrible golf. I've been benched on the team. Last year I was named captain, same with this year. So there's been a lot of ups and downs in my golf career. To figure out the question of why golf is so hard, I have decided to go out and interview some people at the place I take lessons. Hopefully with their expertise, they can help me get closer to the answer of why the game of golf is so difficult. So without further ado, let's go and head over at B Golf and Novi, and hopefully we can get some very valuable insights on trying to answer this question of why is golf so hard. All right, let's start this interview off. What is your name and what do you do?
My name is Joe Renfer, and I'm a golf instructor.
Ben Bockin, and I'm a golf coach / business owner.
At Elledge, I'm a co-owner and founder of B Golf Coaching Academy, and mostly helping people play better golf.
In your opinion, what makes golf so hard?
It's the least predictable sport of all time.
It's complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces.
But in golf, every single shot is 100% different than the last. So there's just a million different variables, and you have to be constantly adapting your golf game to fit that.
It's technical, it's physical, equipment matters, just to name a few.
In tournaments, you typically have the most amount of pressure when playing. How does being under pressure affect the mental game, specifically your pace, your rhythm, and your focus?
I think that's the first thing that I got exposed at in college. So it's a different ballgame. So playing golf in tournament versus playing golf in college versus playing golf in college with people watching. I think my scores just went higher, higher, higher until I started preparing to actually be in an environment where I wasn't putting my focus on something I couldn't control, right? You can't control who's watching you. You can't control what the course is doing. You can't control the weather. But I can control my process, I can control my mental game, I can control my preparation. So that's where I put my focus, and then the results came with that.
I think typically when people are under the gun, their adrenaline levels change. So when your adrenaline levels change and spike, it makes it seem as though time is speeding up, right? So, in my opinion, the reason that people feel a lot of pressure in the tournaments is because they're actually thinking about failing sometimes. Right, and that's what happens when your mind starts to wander. So when you start to get anxious and your adrenaline levels start to build, typically the mind likes to go in dark places.
For lots of golfers, they have a lot of stress when other people are watching them. They typically have a fear of embarrassing themselves by hitting a bad shot. How do you manage this when playing with spectators?
That's a good question. So when there's fear, mostly that's about an ego protection of one's own self. Fair?
Yeah.
So how do you mitigate fear? Step one, you acknowledge it. Denying it or trying to suppress it is a radically poor strategy, which is what most people do. Acknowledge it and then come up with a game plan, back to the plan, that's about you. So philosophically here, you have to focus on you, and it has to be under your control. The conversation has to be about you. Once it goes to other people, what are coaches thinking, what are other players doing, anything that is not about you is where that starts to invite that fear response.
Yeah. Well, how does your expectations affect your mental game?
It's a lot. So the expectation, back to the time travel, I expect to play well, oh, don't miss it. So there's a narrative about what should or shouldn't happen in the future. And when then that reality doesn't match what we think should or shouldn't have happened, let's call them, there's conflict. And when there's conflict, performance isn't going to work.
I think expectations lead to time traveling again, right? So a lot of times when you have expectations, you put more pressure on yourself. And when people put more pressure on themselves, the freedom goes away. When the freedom goes away, the performance goes down, right? So that's where expectations can hurt. There's also a lot of times what you'll notice with people is when they can go to a round with no expectation, usually what happens, they're a little bit more free when they're out there and results start to happen a little bit more naturally. That's why a lot of times if you see somebody that has a really bad range session before the round, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, and a lot of times that player will play fantastic golf because there is no expectation. They assume that they're kind of going to play bad, and their adrenaline levels kind of calm a little bit, not really too concerned about the outcome, and they just swing like they don't care, and all of a sudden, bam, everything works.
Something that I have felt in my own golf career is that as I've gotten better as a player, the game has seemed harder for me. Why would that be?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think a lot of people kind of struggle with that. And as they improve, they expect so much more out of their golf game.
Mm-hmm.
So they start to see those slightly missed shots as bad shots versus when they started learning golf. If they hit that shot the first time they played golf, they would be like, that's the greatest shot I've ever hit in my life. So instead of seeing a shot and saying, oh, that's good enough to score whatever, they see it as that shot's not good enough.
One of the key differences from golf to other sports is the ball is stationary. This gives you a lot of time to think in between your shots, unlike a sport like hockey where these decisions are so quick. How does this affect your mental game, especially overthinking?
Well, it gives you time to do just that.
Yeah.
I think it just gives more time for the mind to wander and scan, right? To where other sports you're constantly engaged in watching the ball move and react to it. Where in golf, I mean, you're having to put it in motion, so therefore there's just a lot more time to think before you have to put it in motion. That's why in golf a lot of times, in order to get the mind in the appropriate place, like you have to actually have strategies to silence it because you're not reacting to anything because you're having to put it in motion.
Yeah. Another difference in golf is that you have 14 different clubs instead of like one hockey stick or one ball. How does this affect the way that you would structure a practice?
If people aren't accounting for the different tools, 14 different tools, and then when you train, you have to be touching clubs at the long end, let's say the driver, at the long end of the bag. You have to be touching the wedges at the short end of the bag, and you have to be touching the putter because that's, let's say, half the game. So an effective practice, we would call it, would touch several of the different tools versus, let's say, an ineffective practice would be, folks go to the range and they hit a lot of 7-irons as an example. So that doesn't do justice to what's going to actually happen on the golf course, where you're going to be touching all of the different tools and trying to get the ball to do different things. So that training design has to look like, feel like golf in some regard.
So it's important to structure your training to be variable, right? So a million people go to the range and they just grab one club or they grab driver and they just try to hit straight shots over and over and over again. And that's not the reality on the golf course. That's not the reality when you have a shot and you have to pick a club. You have to pick a club based on the distance and the wind and the lie. So you have to implement that into your training. We call it variable training. Yeah. So hitting different clubs every 2 or 3 balls, hitting different targets, hitting different shot shapes, hitting different trajectories, and challenging yourself in that way. So when it happens on the golf course, you're ready to go.
Now let's talk about the round of golf. A typical 18 holes takes 6 miles to walk and around 5 to 6 hours to complete. How does this extended time in walking make the game mentally harder compared to other sports?
Yeah, so it's physically taxing, it's mentally taxing, and it kind of hits all the different energy things that you need in any sport. So you have to swing the club really, really fast, which is the energy system. That is the super fast stuff. So you have to eat food and prepare yourself to perform the actual physical part of golf. But then you have to be able to walk 6 miles up and down, right? So there's a physical part for that. So that's the endurance part. And then there's the last part, which is the mental part. So it's just the most physically taxing sport in like every single way possible.
With tournaments, some are multiple days long. How do you conserve energy and keep focus when it is so easy to be mentally fatigued?
I think like a lot of the best tournament players in the world really understand that that you have to have downtime in between those tournament rounds. A lot of tour players that you'll talk to through the years, they talk a lot about after the round, instead of just, going to grind for another 4 to 5 hours, actually it's really important for them to, go watch a movie with their family members, do something outside of the game of golf, just because your mind needs that release, right? So you need to have the opportunity to go do different things. So to think you're going to grind for 4 straight days when you're out there, it's way too much, right? So you have to have that release when you're out there.
What is the process for mentally turning off or keeping a quiet mind while on the golf course, allowing yourself to be free and letting your muscle memory take over your swing?
Awareness, step one. A lot of people don't know that they have to get internally silent, so you gotta help people understand that that's true. And then we do that by getting people, there's numbers of ways to do it, which I'll answer in a second here, but you gotta be aware that it even matters. Most people are unaware. So once people are aware, there's a lot of different tools and strategies. Some people could use mantras, like super fluid, super fluid, super fluid. So that would be an example of a mantra, using numbers. Other people use breathing techniques. That's highly effective. Other people get present through their senses, like they could just feel the tension or the softness in their arms or shoulders as an example. So ultimately, how do you get present through your senses is how you would learn to quiet your mind, and then you see that it influences the ball in a positive way, so then you learn to repeat that to become a competitive player.
Now for time of the misconceptions. What is the most misunderstood aspect in your mental game that amateurs get wrong, and what is something that they could do to achieve what you have?
That's a good question. That's a good question. The most misunderstood part of your mental game, probably the pressure part. So I think a lot of coaches like to buy into the pressure. When I would teach that even days or week ahead of the most important tournament in your life, you should start meditating. You should start going over your process even weeks in advance, so then when that day comes, you're fully mentally prepared for it, right? So I think it's misunderstood that even the people that are teaching it, you need to keep yourself quiet. They're teaching it to do during the tournament, which is super important. But if you haven't done anything in preparation and you just try to do it the day of the tournament, then you're kind of already dead in the water, because you haven't really prepared yourself to be in the moment or to have all that pressure and be able to focus in like that.
I think the mental mistakes people make is they're trying to control something that's not under their control, that being the result. And I think when it comes to playing golf, people think that the swing needs to be in all these perfect positions in order to make the ball do what they want to do, and it definitely leads to overthinking. And then as soon as the overthinking occurs, that's when everything breaks down, because there's too much interference from a mind-body connection standpoint, right? But it goes right back to the same tools that we've talked about throughout this interview. You have to continue to, it sounds, said it probably a billion times, right? But it's the ability to stay present to something.
Yeah.
Right? It's the time traveling that really gets people in trouble, right? When you're thinking about the past or the future, that's when everything goes wrong. So it goes back to, what can you stay present to?
Now about the yips. What are the yips? How do they develop? How do they affect your game, and how do you recover from them?
Yeah, so the yips are true in any sport, and it's very much a mental thing, right? So you have convinced yourself that you are completely unable to do something. So in golf, we call it the shanks usually, right?
Yeah.
So if someone is so far off the end of the club that the ball just keeps on shooting off in a direction, and they see it as, first off, a mental issue, so they're completely unable to do something else, and then they think it's a mechanical issue, so they go internal and they try to fix so many different things. When in reality, they just need to fix what we call center face contact. So they're so far off the heel that they need to learn how to hit it the other way. So it's a much simpler process. And then, like you alluded to earlier, they need to actually get their mind silent. So they're thinking about 10 different things, and they're not even allowing themselves to swing the club they need to naturally.
That's a heck of a question. The yips is a neurological process where there's an involuntary firing of the fine motor skills. Usually it manifests in what I would call a jiggle in the hands. That's what the yips are. So it's neurological, like it manifests through the central nervous system, and it manifests physically. A lot of people will tell me they have the yips, but they don't actually have the yips.
Yeah.
Right? Now, how does it happen? Whew. A lot of different reasons. Mostly, you have an underdeveloped skill. Like, let's say putting. Like, I don't really have it that good because I've never really trained it. Right? So I have an underdeveloped skill. And then I expose that underdeveloped skill to pressure. Call it the golf course or tournament golf. And then as I keep exposing this underdeveloped skill to pressure like frays the wires from your brain to your hands. There's like the central nervous, let's call them wires. So you put pressure on those wires, you fray them. And then when people are focused on an outcome process, you put more pressure on that. And then when you miss, there's emotional scar tissue, so those wires keep getting frayed and frayed and frayed.
Some yips are neurological, some yips are mental. The neurological ones are a little bit harder to solve, just because you have to do something dramatically different. And what I mean by that is, say you're a right-handed player and you have the putting yips, and it's neurological. Well, you have to do something completely different to get out of that, right? So it could be an extreme measure, like if you're a right-handed player putting left-handed. Right, same thing with chipping. Chipping yips are pretty common too, so you have to do something dramatically different in order to get out of it, and it has to be extreme. That's why you see a lot of players, even with putting, they've gone to like a claw grip, right? So you have to go to extreme measures to get the yip out. Now, if it's mental is a little bit different, right? Mental, it goes back to detaching from results. You know, so a lot of times people are so attached to the result, that's what causes the yip. So once again, going back to getting them to detach and stay present to something, a lot of times we'll take care of it, but the neurological ones are the hard ones.
Thank you so much for your time and expertise. Is there any closing remarks you would like to share or add?
That's all I got. Golf is really hard,
Yeah.
but we all still love it somehow.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
No, best of luck with your golfing journey.
All right, thank you so much.
Fun to watch you come in here and continue to work hard and really develop as a player. My only advice for you is to continue to stay patient, right? Just because at your level it is extremely difficult to continue to shave off those additional shots that you're looking to shave. So stay patient, work hard, make sure your training plan stays organized.
All right, thank you so much.
Hey, no problem, buddy.
Yeah.
So my hat's off to you, man. Keep asking the questions.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, today after the interviews with Ben, Chad, and Joe, and after watching the interviews a couple times, I thought that the most prevalent idea was putting pressure on yourself during the golf swing and how it affects your golf swing. I thought I'd show you guys, the viewers, what it really does in real time. So this led me to make an experiment about how pressure affects your golf game. What I have done is I have had 10 shots from 60 yards to about 145 yards. And each shot, there is going to be a white circle which I need to hit the ball into. And now I bet you're wondering, Will, how are you going to put pressure on yourself during this? Well, I've thought about putting money on the line. I've thought about doing push-ups or sit-ups or something physical, but nothing really seemed interesting to me, and I didn't want anything to be really boring for you guys. So I thought, let's just strap a shot collar on my leg and see how it goes. So with the shot collar, it's going to be tied around my thigh, and every time I miss that white circle on the green, it is going to shock me. And what's even worse is every time I miss the green, Jackson, who is behind the camera, he is going to raise the level on the shot collar to make it more uncomfortable for me and to put even more pressure on me to make the next shot. So with all that said, let's go over to Fox Hill's Performance Center and let's see how that experiment goes. So for our experiment, we have this green right here, and basically if I hit inside this white circle here, I'm safe. But if I land outside that white circle, and you can see right on there, I will get shocked to shot count. 120?
120.
Please. No. Alright. Shot one clear.
Shot number 2.
Please, please. How did you use a T? Okay. You're safe, you're safe, you're safe. Oh, sit down. Sit down, sit down. Sit down, sit down. Oh, shit. Oh, shoot. You gotta be kidding me. Oh no, I choked her. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. No.
Oh.
No.
It's good shots, Pierre.
Please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. Yes. Please don't go left. Oh, you jerk. Oh my gosh. Please be in. No! Horrible. This is so stupid. I'm an idiot. Why would I ever think this is a good idea? This is so dumb. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Don't feel the pressure too much.
Don't go left. That's in. That's in. No! Why'd you shock me 3 times?
After the fourth.
Ow. Alright, now after that terrible experience that I just had, now instead of having a shock collar and getting shocked every time I miss, there is no pressure for me to hit the mat. We're just going to see how I perform. Oh, you just wanted to go back to winning. There we go. Oh, go. Oh, there we go.
Oh, I was not thinking that was gonna stay.
Sit down.
Always basketball in a good spot.
There we go. That's 9 for 10. So no pressure. I went 9 for 10. Pretty good. But with all the pressure and the shot collar, measly 3 for 10. So obviously pressure plays a huge effect when you're playing golf. A big no thanks to Jackson Shippe, made him behind the camera and shocked me. That hurt. I never want to do that again. And a big thanks to Klapper for letting us the shot collar and terrifying me. After my visit to the Fox Hills Performance Center with a 3 out of 10 performance with the shot collar strapped to my leg and a 9 out of 10 performance with no pressure, I want to really deep dive into it and see exactly why that happened. According to Dr. Milan DiGilo, there's 3 ways why I performed so poorly with the shot collar on my leg. The first was muscle tension, which is one of the most common symptoms of stress, which can very heavily impact performance. Especially in golf, when you're at the top of the game, you want to be very loose in your swing, but with muscle tension, this does not let you be able to do this. These tight muscles negatively affect flexibility, mobility, and leaving yourself to have the improper form. All your muscles and joints work together during the golf swing, but because of all the muscle tightness, this all causes stress and it can go into joint and muscle injury. Tighter muscles do not receive as much blood or oxygen, which can increase chance of injury. Fatigue is the second thing, which is also another symptom of stress that can lead to injury. Fatigue will negatively affect your response reaction time, which can cause injury in some situations. The third is anxiety, which is also a common side effect of stress. When feeling anxious, it is common to struggle with your decision making and your focus. There is no time for a lack of focus or poor decision making during a game. This impaired cognitive ability at this sort can put you also at a higher risk of injury. This is something we directly see when there was a shot collar on my leg. My decision making and my focus was much worse, as even in the 10th shot, you can clearly see me talking to myself about how much of a terrible idea it was to strap a shot collar around my leg. According to John Weir, the stress that was put on my body from the shot collar created the fight, flight, or freeze response. This activated my nervous system, which led to increased heart rate, breathing rate, and blood pressure. This impaired my ability to perform, but also resulted in tension within my swing. Golfing legend Bobby Jones said that the enemy in golf is tension. Because of this flight, fight, or freeze response, this flooded my system with cortisol, which ended up setting a chain reaction of psychological responses. And the stress didn't just affect my physical swing. All this stress released tons of cortisol in my body, which impaired my perception, my decision making, my focus, and more. It also impaired the brain region that was responsible for my movement and my motor control. Because I put my body under all this stress, it was extremely difficult to execute my swing with the precision it needed to hit inside of the white circle. The stress also took a toll on my mental game during it. Instead of being happy about hitting it inside of the white circle, the only thing that I could focus on is what would happen if I didn't hit inside the white circle, which would be to shock my thigh. This shifted my focus from being happy about playing golf to fixating on what is going wrong, which put so much more stress onto me. Like Joe said in an interview, when he was not prepared to play golf, he said his scores kept getting higher and higher and higher. We saw this at Fox Hills, where I was not prepared for the next shot because of the stress I put on myself for being shocked. I was not mentally prepared to make the next shot, and that ultimately set myself up for failure. We see a direct correlation from Ben's interview to my performance at Fox Hills. Because of the stress and what would happen to me if I didn't hit in the white circle, I had a very big fear of failing because in turn, it would shock me. This made me more anxious, and I was not able to focus on the task at hand at hitting inside the white circle, and instead I was time traveling to what happened in the past with the shock and what was going to happen in the future, which I thought was I was going to keep getting shocked. This led me to speak that into existence. As you see, I started 3 for 4 and I ended 3 for 10. This is a prime example of how being stressed directly affects your golf game. When going into Fox Hills, I had a lot of confidence that the shot collar would not stress me out. One of the reasons my expectations were so high for the experiment is because I normally do this on a level that is much harder than the one I did during the experiment. Because I've done the harder level many times and I've been able to succeed, I thought that that level during the experiment would be no problem for me. But as you see, I had lots of trouble, which led me to getting shocked. Ben put this perfectly. When there's pressure on yourself, the freedom of the swing goes away. And when the freedom of the swing goes away, the performance goes away. This is also a reason why I performed so well in the second run with no shot collar. Because of my poor performance with the shot collar, I had no expectations to being able to hit it inside of the white circle. This made it so I was not time traveling from the past and the future, and I was able to focus on the shot in hand and what I needed to do to execute it. Because my expectations were so low, I had little care for the outcome of the second round. I was able to perform at that level because I let the muscle memory kick in and have a free swing. I'd also like to thank Ben Bockin, Chad Elledge, and Joe Renfer for the interviews. I'd like to thank my mom for letting me lend her computer for this project. I'd like to thank my parents for always supporting me and getting me into golf. And also I'd like to thank Joe Renfer again and Sodi Mikalos for helping me through their experience with golf and teaching me everything that they know. So hopefully now, after watching that, you understand a little bit more about why golf is so hard.